Theo Usherwood is here. Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you.
I've saved you a bumper sticker because I knew that they'd all go as soon as we put them out there yesterday. You can have the home and common sense in the back of your car, thereby being recognised as somebody who is clearly ahead of the game, as we always are here. I mean, how many times last week did I say when you were here, you know, let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see what Donald Trump is doing. Let's not castigate him. Let's not say he's sold out to Vladimir Putin. Let's not say that Putin's pulling his strings. Let's just wait and see. And here we are.
And here we are, front page of the Times. Zelensky, he's going to go to Washington, it looks like, on Friday, and he's going to sign a deal for minerals. And this is going to be a joint deal.
Yes.
And the two key things to this. Firstly, this is Donald Trump getting US taxpayers' cash back given to Ukraine under Biden, making the point that actually that money wouldn't have gone had the war just been stopped, sorted out immediately. And then the second part of this, and this is the really crucial thing, this is the thing where people are going to really struggle. They're going to have to wobble their head a little bit, because actually what Donald Trump is saying, we'll give you those security guarantees, President Zelensky, when we have that joint deal for your minerals. He's done a great deal for the United States.
He's basically said, look, you know, we gave you all this money. Zelensky just the other day said it wasn't a loan, it was just money that we were given. We weren't planning to return any of it, unlike the money that he says he's going to return to us. But Trump's just gone, well, fine, if you haven't got the money to pay us back, we'll take some of your minerals.
And then we'll give you a security guarantee. And then you have peace. That actually, that's something that
sounds
Keir
sensible
Starmer
to me.
and Emmanuel Macron would sign up to.
Exactly. But this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, suddenly we saw a very serious Keir Starmer yesterday, didn't we? And, you know, listen, I'm not going to make fun of him on the basis that on this one he's actually right. But the thing is, Britain as a country should have been doing this many, many years before now. We're only now doing it because he's being basically forced into it by Donald Trump, and he's going to see him tomorrow, and he's going to have to answer for his policy. So if he hadn't done this, Trump would have probably said, you know what, I don't even want to see you.
Well, exactly that. It wasn't even probably that. Basically, this was like, imagine Trump knows this play, right? You know, Mar-a-Lago. Think of his Mar-a-Lago resort, where how many thousands of dollars is he charging if you want to come and sit in Mar-a-Lago and go to a fundraiser? It's just like that. You want to get in with the in the room with Donald Trump. You want to play with the big boys. Then show it.
There's a fee.
There's a fee, and the fee is that you start pulling your weight and spending the money on defence.
There's literally no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly, and there was this, and at the weekend there was this sort of prevarication in Number 10, where it was like, oh, we'll send out Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, and we'll link all this money.
Which was a bad idea, frankly.
We'll link all this money to the Strategic Defence Review that's going to come in a few weeks' time. We'll try and drag our feet on it. And from the way it seems to have played out, is that actually the White House, Washington, was very clear. You want to have that sit-down meeting. You want to be that bridge.
You've asked for it.
You want it, well then you need to cough up, because Uncle Sam is no longer going to continue to fork out for defence spending, and it's no good saying, well, your budgets are tight. And he's had to go, look, he's done the sensible thing. He's gone after. He's had to find a huge amount of money, 13.4 billion pounds a year by 2027. He's brought it forward, so he's shown that due deference to Donald Trump, but he's done the sensible thing in trying where to find that money.
I mean, he must have had a few rows inside a cabinet to get all the lefties to actually say.
Well, he dropped it on them. He literally, there was just a phone call. They were all on trains and out of the way. I mean, there's going to. But you're right. You make the right point, Mike. There's going to be a lot of fury over the coming days. We've seen the charities like ActionAid and Save the Children.
Oh yeah, they're all absolutely bumping their gums, aren't they?
They're really
and you would expect this. I'm sure you do. You would expect this. Yesterday, when this all happened, I decided to go and do a bit of, you know, what you might call archaeological Twitter hunting, and I found a tweet from Keir Starmer from 2021, 13th of July, in which he says this: the Conservatives have just voted to cut international aid. Cutting aid to help the world's poorest during a pandemic is callous and not in our national interest. Boris Johnson is damaging Britain's reputation around the world.
Yes,
he's just done the same thing.
Yeah, and do you remember what David Lammy said only a few weeks ago, when he said, you know, I'd remind our US friends that when we cut international aid, it wasn't a very good decision. And of course, this was the fact of
because they cut USAID.
Yeah,
absolutely right. And one from Angela Rayner around the same time. Tory MPs just voted to cut our international aid spending that supports the most vulnerable people in the world. Don't let them tell you they want the money spent here in Britain instead, because they voted to leave our hungry kids with no food too.
But it's also down to a lot of the work you've done here at Talk, and a lot of the work that Harry Cole's done at The Sun. You know, shells not shellfish, and voters, you know, they're conscious. They've got. in number 10, there are some sensible people like Morgan McSweeney, who understand voters, who understand those voters, who listen to your programme, listen to talk, and they realise that they simply...
And they hear the people who are angry.
And they hear people are angry, and they're looking at polls, and they realise Keir Starmer's unpopular, and they've got to find a huge amount of money very quickly. And what have they done? They've gone for the common sense thing. Let's find the money from the international aid budget, because voters are furious. They pick up the Sun and they go, what? Were we researching poor health in Bangladesh?
Spending £110,000 on preventing gender-based disinformation in Kenya, £30 million budget for providing enhancing gender outcomes in Nepal.
£500,000 for a fleet of electric Porsches in Albanian jails.
I know, so that it can make a quick getaway, presumably. We'll come back to Albania in a moment. But here's what it could buy, apparently. $6 billion extra on defence every year. The Sun have done this on pages 4 and 5. One set Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier costs $6 billion. So that would be just one thing. Or you could get 70 F-35B military jets, which cost $85 million each. 15% of Dreadnought nuclear ballistic submarine programmes. 3,000 Storm Shadow missiles at $2 million each. Or 1,430 Challenger 2 tanks. I think people will be happy, depending on how long it takes to get all this stuff done, that we finally got a sort of an armed forces that we can be proud of again, or we will have. And that's where we should be spending the money.
And the point is that there's going to be a deal that's going to be done on Ukraine, like it or not. You can get upset about it or not, right? And it looks like minerals is going to be key to this. We're going to have some sort of guarantee from Donald Trump, or Ukraine is going to have some sort of guarantee from Donald Trump. But what he really wants is he wants this to happen, not just in the UK, but right across Europe, and that everybody starts paying their defence. So when Vladimir Putin goes away, licks his wounds, rearms his military, and then comes back and thinks, right, I'm going to have another go at a NATO country, we don't just have to look to America. Europe doesn't just look to America and say, oh, could you bail us out with this one? Actually,
we're just roll the tanks.
And we're actually just in a position, Europe's in a position to say, actually, we're going to go and meet this head on. We've got the military to do it. We'll go and meet you at the border of Poland if you say you wanted to have a go at Poland, and we can defend ourselves. And there's no reason, there's absolutely no reason why we can't do it. European NATO, that's putting the United States aside, is 10 times richer than Russia.
Of course it is.
And actually, we're perfectly able to do this on our own volition and to defend ourselves. And that's the point that Donald Trump is making. He doesn't want to.
And he's made the point, but not only has he made the point, but he's actually made it happen.
Yes.
Which is quite remarkable, considering he's been in just over a month.
Yes, but he's done it by really hard diplomacy. He's not done it by, oh, please, sorry, in a couple of years' time, we're going to he's, you want to get in the room with me. You want to, and he's done it by, the leverage with all of this, Mike, was that meeting in Saudi Arabia last week in Riyadh.
Of course.
When you had.
Oh, what you mean? The one the lefties were saying was wrong.
Yeah, the one
that they said was terrible.
The one with Rubio and Lavrov, because it suddenly was like, if you want to come to the table, if you want to come to the party, there is an entry fee. You need to be. Otherwise, I'm just going to do this by myself. I'm going to have my own phone calls. I'm going to send my own people to my own meetings with the Russians.
He called Zelensky a dictator, and now look where we are. We've got Zelensky offering to do him a deal. Yes. That's called the art of the deal, ladies and gentlemen. And Dan Hodges, if you're watching, if you're up this early, remember what you said yesterday? Well, forget it. How about this? Let's listen to what Starmer had to say yesterday in Parliament on 2.5% of GDP.
So starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so that we reach that level in 2027. And we will maintain that for the rest of this Parliament. And let me spell that out, Mr. Speaker. That means spending £13.4 billion more on defence every year from 2027.
Now, if you looked at Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner's faces there while he was delivering that, you would think that they'd just been condemned to some kind of horrible, Devil's Island sentence the rest of time. But if only we knew where the money was coming from, and if only we had a journalist that would ask that question to Keir Starmer. Have a look at this.
I've long argued that in the face of ongoing generational challenges, all European allies must step up and do more for our own defence. So, subject to economic and fiscal conditions and aligned with our strategic and operational needs, We will also set a clear ambition for defence spending to rise to 3% of GDP in the next Parliament.
So now for the question.
Are you concerned, Prime Minister, come the spending review in the spring, later in the spring, that you've taken this tough decision when it comes to defence spending, but you're also going to have to take tough decisions when it potentially comes to tax rises, spending cuts across Whitehall, and that your own MPs and your own voters are going to turn to you and say, well, hang on a moment, you can find the money for defence. Why can't you find the money for the things that we're really worried about?
Look, I have taken tough decisions. We took tough decisions in the budget. We took decisions I didn't want to take in terms of national insurance, winter fuel allowance. But we took those tough decisions as a political choice so we could put the money into the NHS and deliver the reduction, for example, that we've seen in waiting lists.
Yeah, there isn't a reduction in waiting lists, actually. He says he's made 2 million more appointments, but that's not actually true. But that was one, Theo Usherwood, looking much younger, I must say, making a point there to the Prime Minister. That was a Downing Street press conference yesterday. But where is the money coming from?
The money's coming from international aid. The point I was making is that this decision, you know, there are going to be some really painful decisions coming up in this spending review where they basically, you know, the headroom has gone because the cost of government borrowing has soared by £10 billion. Yeah. So they've lost that money, and they're going to have to make decisions in order to balance.
Well, they borrowed 17 billion in December alone last year.
And and that was just the interest payments. So they've got real problems in terms of paying that money back, and that means they're going to have to make some really difficult decisions, cuts. Two departments, and Angela Rayner, you mentioned her face. Her department covers local government, and that's not a protected department.
Right.
So that could face some really tough decisions, up to 10%, and they don't want to cut the civil servants. Right. Grant Shapps, the former Defence Secretary, was making that point.
Well, maybe Angela Rayner could cut back on the £20 million that she's spent extra since she's been in the Department of Housing on consultants.
Yeah, and she also did a trip last week to Ethiopia and Ghana as part of her brief as the.
Is she building houses there?
Well, I think it was a fact-finding mission, but that stuff is sure. that stuff's going to have to go.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going
to have to trim their sails quite significantly, and I include in that David Lammy's, jetting around in private jets, Starmer's foreign trips, all of the stuff that counts, and what it looks like. Because if you're saying that you need to ask people to tighten their belts and to sort of save themselves from going down the gurgler financially, you have to look like you're not being profligate with money.
Yes, and that's always that's always been a danger. That's always been a weak point for an Achilles heel for Labour, and these are going to be really difficult decisions. And the point I was trying to make was that come that spending review, and it could even turn into an emergency budget, because Rachel Reeves, depending on how things pan out over the next few weeks and months, will have a better idea on March 26th when the OBR, the Office for Budgetary Responsibility, update their forecast. But could have to make some really tough spending cuts. She may have to come back and put up taxes again, and people will turn around and say, well, hang on a moment, you've cut international aid to what was it, 0.3% of GNI. Why don't you have another go at that?
Yeah, have another go, take another 2 points off, because once you've broken the seal, suddenly there you are, you've got opportunities all over the place. Theo, we've got lots more to do.